Meanwhile, troops and special forces of Operation Whirl Punch conducting special fighting patrols in the Kachia-Kajuru axis of Kaduna State have neutralized 5 bandits in Dantaro general area of Kajuru local government area of the state. This was disclosed in a statement by the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, on the operations of the troops to clear the Maru-Enugu axis spanning Kachia and Kajuru local government areas. According to Mr. Arwan, the troops engaged the bandits at Dantaro community after a sharp exchange of gunfire, leaving 5 of the criminals dead. The troops also recovered 2 AK-47 rifles, 1 locally fabricated submachine gun, 9 AK-47 magazines, 250 rounds of 7.62mm ammunition, 2 motorcycles, and 2 handheld radio sets from the bandits. Similarly, the air component of Operation Whirl Punch successfully hit bandit camps in Sabon Birnin-Daji general area of Igabi local government area. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Governor, Uba Sani, has already applauded the breakthrough and lauded security agencies for their determined efforts and outstanding contribution to the security of Kaduna State. But the governor urges the military to keep up the momentum of its operations. Now, staying with security, local government areas in Nasarawa State are stepping up efforts to improve the security atmosphere of their communities to complement that of the state government. The stakeholders of Keffi local government area of Nasarawa are partnering with the agencies to reduce crimes in the area as well as improve the security architecture. The partnership, the chairman of Keffi local government area, Baba Shehu, noted, is prompted by the security challenges bedeviling the areas, which is worsened by the emergence of a group known as Anshara. Our correspondent Halima Gayam reports.
Keffi local government area of the western zone of Nasarawa State. The local government area grapples with several challenges that continue to threaten its security atmosphere. Among them is kidnapping, which affects residents of its suburbs, including students of the Nasarawa State University, who appeal for more efforts from the government.
I want to appeal to the state government to please ensure the students have a very secured environment and conducive place for learning. We keep having series of attacks. It's keep affecting our education too.
The security is okay, but what I will ensure is that we should not just relent. Because whenever I find security is okay, the fraudsters there are watching. When security relents, they come back and attack.
Very worrisome is the presence of a group called Anshara, who terrorize unsuspecting members of the community. To chart a way out of this menace, stakeholders comprising security agencies, community and religious leaders, youth groups, and traditional rulers meet to exchange ideas for improved synergy with the security agencies convened by the chairman of Keffi local government area.
Keffi town and its environs had witnessed a case of suicide bombing, series of kidnappings, recording cases of some criminal elements known as Anshara, cases of drug abuse, theft, etc. Hence, as a responsible government, they need to convoke this sensitization campaign to curb this social menace in order to pave way for a serene and peaceful existence among the peace-loving people of our dear local government area.
The divisional police officer of the area blames parents for lack of cooperation with security agencies.
The problem of security in Keffi, largely, I will push it to the parents. First thing that welcomed me was the issue of Anshara. They are indigenous of Keffi, they have parents in, and the parents know they are members of Anshara. We had a series of meetings with the emir, and to my dismay, the parents are dodging to even bring their children forward as Anshara.
Ayuba Mirafi calls for better cooperation to tackle prevailing security challenges as he assures of a better security response.
Parents and others, don't hesitate. If you see anything going on within the society, please don't hesitate to inform us.
Keffi is fast growing into a cosmopolitan city due to its proximity to the nation's capital, Abuja, and the presence of the state university. This growth is, however, witnessing an increase in crime rates, which the stakeholders are working to overcome through improved synergy as they urge for more citizens' participation in curbing crime, maintaining that security is everyone's business. Halima Agayam, Channels Television News.
Now, at the beginning of this year, 2024, most farmers in Katsina State looked forward to a beautiful farming season. But the reality is that there has been a shortage of work bulls for soil tillage, compounded by the increasing spate of banditry in the state. Farm owners also identified cattle rustling by the bandits as a major threat to livestock farming in the state. A visit to a cross-section of farmlands in the state by Channels Television shows that some of the farmlands have already been deserted due to the activities of bandits.
For over a decade now, the activities of armed bandits in Katsina State remain a major source of concern to many farmers, mostly those operating along the banditry-dominated areas and communities. Given the current economic reality, this year's farming season in Katsina State seems to have taken a new dimension with armed bandits on rampage. In new operations model, farmlands are seized, farmers are kidnapped for ransom, and many are unfortunately killed. Shortage of work bulls is proven to be a bigger challenge because without the work bulls, effective farming could hardly take place, and this is where the issue of cattle rustling comes in.
Our major challenge in this period is obviously insecurity, which both the people and the government are aware. Bandits are seizing our farmlands directly or indirectly.
Although the State Commissioner for Agriculture and Livestock Development, Professor Ahmed Mohammed, was unavailable, his counterpart in charge of security says the state is committed to ensuring that farmers access their farmlands in this year's rainy season.
We have extricated about 12 local governments from the shackles of these bandits, and for those local governments, they will farm peacefully. And for the frontline local governments, we are having a plan. And, for security reasons, that plan cannot be unveiled. We will continue to pursue these bandits. We will continue to fight and push them because government will not relent its effort in, tackling the problem of insecurity in the state.
The state government is appealing to the federal government to support the conventional security agencies with sophisticated weapons to effectively battle the bandits and make them return to farm without fear of kidnap or cattle rustling.
Some indigents of Ogoni, under the auspices of Movement for the Survival of Ogoni People (MOSOP) in River State, are demanding the establishment of an agency which will ensure that the benefits of oil extraction are channeled into the development and welfare of the host communities. According to the group, the establishment of the agency is considered as non-negotiable condition for oil exploration activities to resume in Ogoni land. The group say its demand is in line with the 1990 Ogoni Bill of Rights.
The Ogoni National Congress, convened in Bera, community of Gokana local government area, was a rallying point for some indigents of Ogoni to discuss development concerns as the call for the resumption of oil exploration in Ogoni land heightened. They are members of the Movement for the Survival of Ogoni People. They lament lack of development in their communities amidst oil wealth.
Right now, Ogoni is no more confused. We know a way to go, but only one person cannot go because the way is long. Therefore, come up, believe in yourself.
According to these indigents, while oil exploration gathered profits for the operators and the government, it left a trail of polluted environment, among other challenges. The group is unequivocal in its demand for the establishment of a development authority to effectively manage allocations.
We will not accept any option that does not consider the position of MOSOP on Ogoni oil.
And what is MOSOP saying? What MOSOP is saying is that the Ogoni Development Authority should be operationalized. I will tell you what that simply means. The document in your hand is the document on Ogoni Development Authority. It says and demands 20% of the resources that comes out of Ogoni should be committed to Ogoni development. It means simply that we will be able to use the funds that come from Ogoni to build an Ogoni economy.
MOSOP is saying that if you are coming to resume oil operation in Ogoni land, that is our quota. You must give.
We need work. We can sweep on the roads. We need to have our houses. We need to have the freedom. We need to have our oil. We need to have our water. We don't want to be begging from what we have.
The demand for a development authority represents a strategic move by these MOSOP members to permanently address the socio-economic challenges faced by the Ogoni people.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has inaugurated a two-story building, that's a two-story pediatric sickle cell center situated at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital in Ikeja. Governor Sanwo-Olu says the purpose-built medical facility donated by the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals will help scale up response time to cases of sickle cell and stem infant mortality.
The Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, Ikeja, now has a dedicated pediatric sickle cell center to provide early diagnosis, treatment, and continued management to children suffering from the debilitating sickle cell condition, courtesy the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, his deputy Kadri Hamzat, Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Tunja Lausa, ASU top management staff and other medical practitioners are all excited about the new sickle cell center established to help address critical cases.
The establishment of this center will take a huge chunk of load off our usually crowded pediatric clinics and wards. In the center, child sufferers will have the benefit of a very conducive environment to be attended to as outpatients, and those that need daycare can be admitted just for the day and treated, and they will go home. Those that need prolonged admission can also be admitted.
What we aim to do is to for the best outcome possible in sickle cell is to offer what is called comprehensive care for sickle cell. It is basically early detection of sickle cell disease by screening, and the world standard is newborn screening.
The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Adejoke Arelope Adefulire, who initiated the project, says the center will reduce the number of under-5 mortality rates and strengthen the attainment of SDG targets in the country.
It is pertinent to state that awareness, knowledge, and skill among the public health workers, as well as the parents, for people living with disorder are critical to reduction, and I promise that we will do more for Lagos State and do in many other states of the Federation.
The federal government restates its commitment to combat non-communicable diseases and improve healthcare outcomes for Nigerians.
At the federal level, we recognize the urgent need to address these challenges head-on and are committed to building a robust infrastructure to manage and mitigate the impact in collaboration with our subnational government.
At the state level, Governor Sanwo-Olu seeks more collaboration to address the needs of the people.
If we all work together at the national, at the subnational, and even at the local government level, we can achieve a lot more together. This will not only transform our total healthcare landscape, but will definitely add to the number of child care facilities that already exists.
A mobile clinic is also available to attend to sickle cell emergency cases.
In part two, after the break, President Bola Tinubu approves new leadership for the National Council on Climate Change with Dr. Nkiru Kamaduke as Director General. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Bandits kidnap parish priest of St. Thomas Catholic Church, Reverend Father Gabriel Eke in Zaman Dabo community, Zango and Kataf local government, Kaduna State. Ogoni indigents under the auspices of Movement for the Survival of Ogoni People give conditions for the resumption of oil production in the area. President Bola Tinubu approves new leadership for the National Council on Climate Change with Dr. Nkiru Kamaduke as Director General. And Gaza's health ministry says Israeli hostage rescue left 274 Palestinians dead. Israel says there were less than 100 casualties. Minimum wage negotiations are as hard as a rock. And tonight, Babajide Ogusowo, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is right here to share more insights about the outlook on the minimum wage situation in Nigeria. Babajide, great to have you on the News at 10 again.
Good evening, Ayatollah.
All right, so have recent changes in Nigeria's national minimum wage been reflected, in the survival of Nigerians? What can you tell us? What are the facts, even as we speak?
I think it depends on how we want to look at it. But I'll ask you a question, and I want you to listen carefully to this. Would you rather prefer to be on the 125 minimum wage in Nigeria of the 80s, or will you take the 62,000 naira proposal that we have today? Just think about it, and I'll come back to you later on it. For tonight, it's about minimum wage discussions, but I have some good news and some bad news. But I'd like to start with the bad news because it's important. We live in a country today that journalists, reporters, and analysts are being persecuted. Journalists, reporters, and analysts like me are being persecuted for putting our skills, gifts, and talents towards a safer, stronger, and more united Nigeria. And I'll explain this a bit more much later. But let's start with labor and the analysis and what the common man is talking about. Ayotunde, there are three things the common man is talking about regarding this labor discussions. The first is, do we have a minimum wage, a poverty wage, or is it a living wage, or indeed a suffering wage? Number one. Number two is, how are we handling these labor discussions? In simple terms, are wages classified, and are we seeing wages as an expense, or are wages investments? Tunde, the third, final, and perhaps the most important point is if we take a look at the Constitution, Section 16, subsection 2D, it talks about the national minimum wage, but there's one word that comes before a national minimum wage. This Constitution talks about a reasonable national minimum wage.
The word reasonable.
The word reasonable comes before national minimum wage. And so the question is, how do we measure the reasonability of the minimum wage? One way to look at this, Ayotunde, is for us to take a look at what the status is in terms of, like you asked, is the minimum wage reflecting in the standard of living of Nigerians? And not me, but the World Bank provides that answer. In their report that measures the gross domestic product, which in simple terms is a proxy, the gross domestic product per capita, a proxy to measure the standard and quality of life, they say that compared to where Nigeria was in 2014, that year that a lot of Nigerians, that year that the common man felt things were bad and a new government and opposition really gained popularity, they say the GDP per capita of 2014 is better than what it is today. That is from the World Bank. So let's take a look at that table that allows us to see where we were in 2014 and where we are today, especially relative to other large African economies. And here are the exact numbers from the World Bank. They say, compared to 2014, Egypt, Kenya, and Ghana have seen a growth in their gross domestic product per person on a purchasing power parity basis. We see that growth in Egypt, 24% relative to 2014, 20% in Kenya, and 18% in Ghana, 8% in Morocco. What about Algeria, South Africa, and Nigeria? We see declining numbers. In Nigeria, GDP per head in 2014, based on the World Bank's report, shows $6,197. And based on their most recent figures for 2022, they say that has declined by 9%. It is now $5,670. So in simple terms, we are saying that our wages and the wages of a common man has been insufficient for him to have a higher quality of life. That is the fact. And those are the facts that we will keep talking about because it is the truth.
So what's the situation across the largest economies of Africa? I mean, talking about this minimum wage.
We'll go into the other countries in Africa, but we need to understand the impact of the minimum wage in Nigeria. The National Bureau of Statistics puts the size of the economy to 230 trillion naira. You heard me, 230 trillion naira. That is the size of the Nigerian economy, Ayotunde. But the number I'm more interested in is what is the contribution of families like you and I in terms of spending? And it shows that families like you and I account for approximately 70% of the size of the economy. So in simple terms, if you want to grow the economy of Nigeria, you have to grow the income and the quality of life and spending of Nigerians. It's that straightforward. Let's look at the situation of the minimum wage across other African countries, especially if you look at the equivalent of what their minimum wage is in dollar terms. Yes, we understand that cost of living varies across these countries. However, this is a report and this is the situation as of today. Morocco, minimum wage $370, an equivalent of $370 per month. South Africa, the equivalent of $250 per month. Algeria, the equivalent of $145 per month. And look down to where we are in Nigeria today. A 30,000 naira minimum wage is the equivalent of $20 per month. But you might ask, Ayotini, why is this so important? And I'll explain why this is important. The minimum wage is similar to the war we are fighting against terrorists. The minimum wage, and why do I say it's a war? It's a war to keep and attract talent. The minimum wage is a proxy of measuring the willingness of people to stay, the willingness of people to japa. In most times, the minimum wage as well acts as a proxy to measure the median wage. And so it allows not just Nigerians, it allows foreigners to decide, is Nigeria a country you want to come and work? That is why these discussions, I call them, it's war. A war to keep talent, a war, Ayotunde, to attract talent.
So now let's look at the situation really for the way forward. Why are we even talking about all this? I mean, what should determine the new minimum wage going forward?
And I hope the president is listening. I hope his advisors are listening.
Because we have the organized private sector, government, and of course labor all trying to, come together at the negotiating table and of course, come up with some parameters.
I started by asking you that would you rather live in a Nigeria of 1981 when the minimum wage was 125 naira per month, or would you rather live in a Nigeria with a potential 62,000 naira per month? The analysis is clear. What 125 naira per month will buy you, 62,000 naira will not get you. Let me put it in context. There are perhaps two ways and two memos that the president will be dealing with. The first memo, Ayotunde, if we were to look at deciding a minimum wage based on the exchange rate, and I want you to please listen carefully to me. In 2019, April 18, 2019, when President Jonathan signed the minimum wage bill, the minimum wage which became Act, 30,000 naira, April 18, 2019, 30,000 naira was the equivalent of $93. And I was here to do the analysis. Today was the equivalent of $93, 140,000 naira. And so if you put that in front of the president, and we say If we want to keep things the same as it was in 2019, it was the equivalent of $93, we'll be looking at a minimum wage of about 140,000 naira. And so clearly the president will most likely put that memo by the side. The second memo, let's take a look at inflation rates. Going by the facts from the National Bureau of Statistics, the report shows April 18, 2019, on the day President Jonathan signed the minimum wage of 30,000 naira. Looking at the inflation rate between that date and now, based on inflation, the minimum wage, keeping it at par, will be the equivalent of 75,000 naira. And so, Ayotunde, we're in a situation whereby, an awkward situation, whereby we are likely going to move our minimum wage forward. However, an upward review of this new minimum wage is likely going to take us backwards. It's a very strange situation whereby an upward review of our minimum wage, we are likely going to end up backwards. Because, like I said, 30,000 naira of 2019, based on inflation terms, is the equivalent of 75,000 naira. We are not talking about a minimum wage of 75,000 naira today. Based on the exchange rate, a 30,000 naira minimum wage, based on the official exchange rate of then, a 30,000 naira minimum wage, $93, is the equivalent of 140,000 naira. And we're not talking about that today. So we're in that situation where this minimum wage, an upward review, is likely going to take us backwards. Let's take a look at these numbers and exactly what has happened in history, because it allows us to put that in perspective, and then we'll finally end with some good news. The chart of the week. Here are the facts. 1981, 125 minimum wage.
That was under Shagari's administration.
Exactly. As at then, you could get $1 for 61 kobo. In 1995, 3,000 naira minimum wage, but you could get $1 for 22 naira. In 2011, with an 18,000 naira minimum wage, you could buy $1 for 155 naira. And so we're in this situation whereby we are waiting for this new minimum wage. But what is certain, based on what the organized private sector and the government is negotiating for 62,000 naira, this upward review is likely going to take us backwards. But here's the good news, Ayotunde. Despite the challenges, like I talked about, journalists, researchers, analysts like I are facing, despite these persecutions, the president says, and if you take a look at what his goal is, he says he understands these challenges, and he talks about his vision of a Nigeria still remaining crystal clear. That is some good news. However, we understand the challenges that lie ahead of him. Like I said, we're in a situation where our upward review of a minimum wage is likely going to end up putting us backwards.
Well, definitely we'll leave it at that. Babaji, thank you for your thoughts on the News at 10.
The pleasure is all mine.
Still ahead on the News at 10, our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu brings us up to date on the 2024 Hajj ongoing in Saudi Arabia. Please join us again. Appointment of Dr. Nkiruka Madwikwe as the Director General, Chief Executive Officer of the National Council on Climate Change in an interim capacity, pending the confirmation of her appointment by the NCCC Supervisory Council. According to the Special Advisor on Media, Ajuri Ngalali, the President has also approved that Dr. Madwikwe is to serve as the co-chairperson of the Intergovernmental Committee on National Carbon Market Activation Plan. The President has also approved the appointment of Mr. Ibrahim Sheleng as the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Finance and Stakeholder Engagement. He is seconded to the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat, where he will handle all matters related to climate finance and stakeholder and donor relations. Also appointed as the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Technology and Operations is Mr. Olamide Fagbuji. He is seconded to the National Council on Climate Change Secretariat, where he will oversee the digitalization of a new open procurement process and cross-departmental procedural optimization initiative. The statement says the President expects the new appointees to bring their expertise and discipline to bear in these very important assignments in pursuance of the nation's aspiration on green industrial development and climate action for sustainable growth and national prosperity. Some indigents of coastal communities of Hajj, Egbema, Uguta and Oru West local government areas who were displaced from their homes and farmlands due to flooding and insecurity have benefited from the federal government agricultural intervention and palliative support program. According to the chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Niger Delta Affairs and lawmaker representing Hajj, Egbema, Uguta and Oru West Federal Constituency, 68 coastal communities, especially those whose farmlands were affected by flooding, will receive the palliatives to cushion the effect of hunger and food shortage experienced in the area due to flooding and insecurity.
Coastal communities of Ohaji, Egbema, Oguta, and Oru West in Imo State has had its fair share of flooding in recent times. This is followed by several months of restiveness due to activities of gunmen that ravaged the area, which no doubt left many homeless and farmlands destroyed. But with the efforts of the state government and security operatives, peace has returned to these affected communities and many are back to their ancestral homes. To cushion the effect of hunger and starvation, indigents and farmers of about 68 affected communities are here in Izumbi to receive palliatives and palm seedlings.
The era of restiveness is gone. Hajj, Egbema, Uguta, Oru West. So many people will be surprised today, coming here, staying up till now without any rancor. Given this issue of restiveness to be a thing of past, in especially Uguta area, this is Uzombe. By this time, a few years ago, you don't come in here for anything. But today, you can see people rejoicing.
The victims take their turns as 42,000 palm seedlings, 20,000 bags of rice, and cartons of noodles is shared among 68 communities.
On behalf of the federal constituency,
Chairman House of Representatives Committee on Niger Delta Affairs, Eugene Dibiagu, says the palliatives will go a long way to complement the efforts of the state government.
This palliative will go a very long way in cushioning the effect of hunger in the federal constituency, because we have a very much quantity that we are giving to our constituents. And it will go a long way in making sure that hunger is reduced on the land.
Some beneficiaries share their excitement on these developments.
Hungry day, but today I go eat with my pikin.
Hopefully, this gesture will not only cushion the hunger in the area, but as agrarian communities, it will also help farmers in the area go back to their farmlands, so there will be bountiful harvest in the next farming season. Channels Television News.
Stories abound about the exploits of women in fields hitherto dominated by men. Our next report chronicles the story of Esther Pukbola, a 22-year-old lady from Kwara State, who is involved in the repair of engines of big vehicles and forklifts since the age of 17. Although she learned the art from her father, she has decided to further her studies to become a mechanical engineer.
At her workshop in Surulere area of Ilorin is 22-year-old Esther Kendi Pukbola, who has mastered the repair of engines of big vehicles and forklift. She gives a background of how and when she started in Lagos and on the journey so far.
My dad was a mechanic, so I started learning from him. That was petrol, generator, and some of other stuff. So after that, after getting some idea from him, so I decided to go for diesel generator when I was in SS. That was 2018.
Despite being from a poor background, but having the zeal to further her education, a philanthropist is seeing her through with her work by enrolling her at the Kwara State Polytechnic to study mechanical engineering. What type of student is Esther? Describing her as a serious-minded and dedicated one.
Esther is a very good student. She's hardworking. She's intelligent. In fact, she's industrious. She's diligent with her work. In class, she listens and she asks questions. So whenever she is having technical issues, she comes forward with it and we propose solutions. So she's a very good student.
Mechanical engineering is believed to be the bedrock of engineering field, and training one person usually requires a lot. Another engineer says locally trained engineers are well dedicated, but limited in patronage.
So we are the bedrock. We train in terms of maintenance, we train in terms of construction, we train in terms of design. We are involved in design in AutoCAD and so many other areas. So mechanical engineering has given birth to so many other engineering disciplines.
Kehinde Kpokwola is optimistic about her future, and she's determined to be focused.
There's no way in this life that there is not challenge, but you have to face your challenges. So to get what you want, you have to work towards it. If I go to Lagos now, if I work like this, I sometimes from work I'll collect 25,000 naira. It's my money. I can spend it any hour I like. But a guy cannot give you 25,000 naira. I'll be telling you that there's nothing. Surely there will be something.
It is believed that Kehinde Kpokwola's zeal could spur other entrepreneurs in order not to fall prey to corruptible influences in the society.
Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, have again intercepted another consignment of 175,000 bottles of opioid imported from India. Barely 1 week after seizing a shipment of 175,000 bottles of codeine-based syrup at the Port Harcourt Port Complex in Onne, River State. In a statement by the Director, Media and Advocacy of the agency, Mr. Femi Babafemi, the two seizures followed earlier intelligence which made the agency request that the shipment be stepped down for 100% examination. Now, the statement explains that the latest seizure of 875 cartons of codeine containing 175,000 bottles and weighing 26,250 kilograms was made on Friday, June the 7th this year, during a joint examination by NDLEA, Customs Service and other security agencies en route to a sea-bonded terminal in Enugu. Now, the statement adds that the agency equally intercepted 5 different parcels containing illicit drugs concealed in ladies' clothes and synthetic hair going to the United States and the United Kingdom. Some of the seized drugs include 620 ampules of pentazocine injection, promethazine, and other opioids. The drug consignments were seized at a courier firm. Now to the arts. Shaping the Future of Ceramics is a show by renowned Austrian artist Selma Etereri at Quintessence Gallery in Lagos. It was an opportunity for this ceramist to interact and share ideas with their Nigerian colleagues, as well as give a live pottery demonstration. And we see it on Art Review tonight.
A documentation of the rich history, culture, morals, and experience in society is what this exhibition of steel-screwed sculptures and acrylic paintings by 2 artists, Segun Akanu and Dolapo Ogunisi, is all about.
For this body of work, for this exhibition, it documents our history, old and timeless history of kingdoms and rulers and settlers and their way of living. And so if you look at the works, the works that has to do with past queens of kingdoms, Queen Aminat of Zaria, Queen Moremi, and also stories about our beads, our local beads, stories about our usual Owambe parties and all that, the way of living generally. Basically, our roots, documenting our background.
Multi-talented artist Segun Akanu explains his idea with the creation of these relief sculptures, which began in 2016. And since then, he's been perfecting the use of these found objects, especially screw steel, bolts, fasteners, and other metals.
The theme for this exhibition was titled Screwed, and it's a way of projecting my style of work. And it's basically screw on board, and it's if you look at it deeply, it's there are variations in height of the screws, which depicts the forms and the folds and the clothing. So it's mostly reliefs. They are all relief sculptures.
While painter Dolapo Ogoni brings a vibrancy and appeal to his acrylic and oil on canvas images to serve as a voice of vision for generations to come.
If you look at these works, apart from enjoying the colorful and the simplicity of the lines, what I try to do, I try to talk to the society, to try to look deep into the society to correct some of the abnormalities in the society and what happens around me. That's what I use. Look at most of my titles, it rallies around what affects the social reality of the average Nigerians.
Kingdoms, rulers, and traditions have been displayed by these two professionals who've mastered their different media in this exhibition in Abuja.
All right, just before sports news, we would like to quickly correct a piece of information on our discussion earlier tonight with Babajide Ogunsonwo, where he said that our data analyst, of course, said that the 2019 minimum wage was signed by former President Goodluck Jonathan. This was actually an error. It was actually a law that was signed by the former President Muhammadu Buhari in 2019. Now for some questions. Carlos Alcaraz fought back to defeat Alexander Zverev in the 5-set French Open final this evening and becomes the youngest man to win Grand Slam titles on all three surfaces. The 21-year-old battled cramps to recover from 2-1 down in sets and win a gripping contest 6-3, 2-6, 5-7, 6-1, 6-2 after 4 hours and 19 minutes on court Philippe Chatrier. Well, Alcaraz adds the Roland Garros crown to the Wimbledon title he won against Novak Djokovic last year and the 2022 US Open.
Third Grand Slam, backing up the US Open 2 years ago and Wimbledon last year. First man in the Open era to win his first 3 Grand Slams, 3 different surfaces. Roland Garros hails the new leader of the Pride. It's a Lion King moment, isn't it, here in Paris? There's a long way to go before he can be hailed king. But one wonders, this is the first of how many?
In football, Lobby Stars beat Remo Stars 3-2 in match day 35 of the Nigeria Premier Football League played at the Lafayette Township Stadium. The win puts the Makurdi-based team 5th on the MPFL log, with Remo Stars dropping to 3rd. Rivers United edged Shooting Stars by a lone goal in Port Harcourt. Sunshine Stars of Akure beat Aqua United. Bayelsa United and Sporting Lagos settled for a 2-2 draw in Yanagua. Heartland beat Doma United, with both teams still in the relegation zone and in the 18th and 19th spots. Abia Warriors were held to a goalless draw by visiting Bendel Insurance. The Oriental derby between host Rangers International and defending champions Eyimba was abandoned at 0-0 when the referee awarded a penalty to the hosts in the 97th minute of the second half. The Super Eagles of Nigeria are now in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, ahead of tomorrow's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Benin Republic. The team had a light training session this evening at the Felix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium, venue of the must-win game for the Super Eagles. Now, the three-time African champions are 5th in Group C with 3 points, having drawn all 3 games played so far, while Benin Republic are 3rd in the group with 4 points, with a win and a draw. Now, the game is scheduled for 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Well, the Badminton Federation of Nigeria has presented its sole representative, Anoluakpo Okweyori, to its partners and the media ahead of the Paris Olympics. Okweyori made history by becoming the first Nigerian badminton player to make it to the Olympics back-to-back in 2020 and 2024. Well, the Badminton Federation of Nigeria said it will keep supporting the dreams and aspirations of the player in making a podium finish at this year's Olympics.
All those people that qualified also did not just qualify through like cheap means, but they qualified through like their hard work also. So we are all like champions, and we are all working towards one particular goal, to win the Olympics.
Next week, we intend to go to Italy for about 3 weeks, train. Then after that, he will move into the ministry training camp foreign in Germany. And in between, he will play 1 or 2 internationals to prepare him for the Olympics. So we have put everything in place possible to make sure that he has a very good outing in Paris.
We wanted to create a platform whereby young, talented people, especially players, badminton players, will be able to showcase their talents. They'll be able to get training, get mentorship, so that they'll be proud to showcase this talent on during international competitions like the Olympics. So we're so excited that this is happening.
Muslims who are performing this year's Hajj have been warmly received by officials of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as they arrived at the King Abdulaziz International Airport in Jeddah. Preparations are well underway to ensure that the over 1 million pilgrims have a smooth Hajj experience. Our correspondent, Sadiq Ilyasu, who is covering the Hajj in Saudi Arabia, now reports.
Pilgrims from around the world arrive at King Abdulaziz International Airport. They receive flowers as a form of hospitality from top Saudi officials. The pilgrims' welfare is the main concern of the Saudi officials.
So because this is a new initiative, so the people, they want to feel relaxed. They feel it's okay. Now you are clean. You don't have to. We don't have to inspect you again, because everything is done, and we want your journey to be interesting, not just to relax or to be easy. To be interesting.
This airport is open once a year for pilgrims, and it is equipped with state-of-the-art facilities for pilgrims coming from around the world for Hajj.
Another improvement towards enhancing the pilgrims' experience is the launch of the Nusuk card service, providing comprehensive guidance for the pilgrims.
Nusuk provide the hub, the infrastructures for everybody who's integrated with us to provide and guarantee and assure the right person receive the services. Like we have the transportation during the 3 days, the 7th and 8th and 9th of the Hajj, and allow those who's allowed and getting the visa for Hajj to be entered the holy sites, and the service provider provided, like different service provider can provide different services integrated with us, such as digital gates and smart services. So once they read the cards by different channels, they can assure that this Hajji receive the services.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is dedicated to ensuring a memorable and smooth Hajj experience for all pilgrims. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Now, the Health Ministry, the Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz has quit the emergency government in Deepening divisions. In a sign of deepening divisions over the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's post-conflict plans for Gaza. Now, during a press conference this evening, he announced his resignation. As Gantz said, the decision was made with a heavy heart. It comes as the health ministry run by Hamas in Gaza says 274 people were killed when Israel launched a raid on a refugee camp, leading to the rescue of 4 hostages. On Saturday, Israeli forces backed by airstrikes fought an intense gun battle with Hamas in and around the Nuseirat refugee camp, freeing the captives. French President Emmanuel Macron has dissolved the French Parliament and called snap elections in the wake of tonight's European election results. Well, exit polls show Marine Le Pen's national rally are set to trounce Macron's party in a historic win for the party. The French parliamentary polls will be held on June the 30th and July the 7th. The call for snap elections is a huge surprise for the country and could pose a huge risk for the French president. A leader of the Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party, Narendra Modi, has been sworn in as Prime Minister for a 3rd time. The ceremony took place at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the official residence of the Indian president. Mr. Modi's BJP-led National Democratic Alliance won the general election with 293 seats, a lower margin than predicted by exit polls. But this election saw a resurgence of India's opposition, which won 234 seats. Thousands of guests have been attending his inauguration at Delhi's presidential palace. Among them are the heads of neighboring Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives. A tight security has been in place in Delhi, which was declared a no-fly zone, with more than 2,500 police officers deployed around the venue. And the main news again. Bandits today stormed St. Thomas Catholic Church in Zamandabo community in Zango Kataf local government, Kaduna State, abducting the priest, Reverend Father Gabriel Eke. Also today, President Bola Tinubu approved new leadership for the National Council on Climate Change with Dr. Nkiru Kamaduke as Director General. Her appointment is pending the confirmation by the NCCC Supervisory Council. And Gaza's health ministry today said Israeli hostage rescue left 274 Palestinians dead. And Israeli authorities, however, says there were less than 100 casualties. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. From all of us here, it's good night and please stay safe.